After Ken Parker retired, and again, I want to reiterate my admiration for Ken Parker's tenure in the city of Port Orange, with that black mark at the end there.
It didn't end well for Ken, but he's still a friend of mine to this day.
With Mr. Casella coming in and going pretty quickly, your reaction to that, and then you said you want to talk about the future more than the past. What about Mr. Johansson's performance? I guess he's already proposed a budget that calls for a 10% increase. I don't know if it's taxes or spending or what.
9.1% increase. There's no way in the world they'll ever get by this council. No way in the world, because no manager so far, and I've seen 4 now, who's proposed any kind of increase along those lines has ever been able to get past my council, and we won't let it happen.
Has any of you on the dais here seen Mr. Knopfel, Mr. Green? Have any of you on the dais here seen Mr. Johansson's proposed budget yet, in terms of what he's seeking that requires that kind of an increase? I'm asking these two first. Either of you? And from your perspective, what do you see as what he's calling for that's justified or not justified to carry a double-digit increase almost?
That's a tough question. Again, without dissecting, I can't go into specifics of every single line item. But and again, the job of him is to ask and to ask of this council, and then it's obviously it's the job of the council to decide what ultimately will and will not be passed.
And Mr. Knopfel, very briefly, is there anything in that budget proposal that sticks out, like, yeah, we need 20 more cops, or we have to buy 2 new fire trucks, or we have nothing left for reserves?
We need to understand as a people that the problem is government spending. That's where the problem is. That's what needs to be curtailed. Now, Port Orange has roughly a $70 million cash budget. 35 in the general fund, 35 million in general, 35 million in the
Okay, Mr.
private
Knopfel,
funds.
what I asked you was, are there any specifics that you see in that preliminary budget that stand out?
But
We'll get to that.
10 seconds, 10 seconds,
Okay.
and I'll be great.
Sure.
Now, out of that 70 million, does anybody in this room think there's not one thin dime that could be cut? $70 million worth of existing spending, do you think we could find a dime, maybe, that we could cut out of that 70 million? Jason is calculating it right now. Mr. Johansson didn't believe so. There's not one thin dime of spending cuts within that $70 million. Now, if we look at some of the specifics within it, I don't think we need a garbage czar. We need someone who knows how to administer a garbage contract, but we don't need a garbage czar. We don't need a public information officer at this point. Look, if we don't get government spending under control, I don't know how we're going to survive as a people.
Okay.
We can't afford government.
I want to go back to Mr. Burnett because I interrupted his couple minutes. Go ahead, Don, finish up. As far as moving forward, Mr. Johansson.
Well, with Jay Johansson, I think what we have is a very high-energy city manager. And we really did need a sea change in the culture of the city. We needed to get back to a culture of service for our citizens. And I think his high energy and the way he motivates and handles people has helped point us back in the right direction again. This is Jake Johansson's first budget. This is our finance director's first budget by herself, without any hand-holding from the help that she got in the past. And
Because the previous one was that packet.
yeah, well, we had an interim manager to help her last year, and Mr. Casella, who started out rather well. I used to get weekly calls from him about what was going on. The communication from him just absolutely went away, and he was under a lot of pressure from our council because of things like that. So when he left, it was the right thing. I'm not the only one that made a bad call in his hire. I mean, Ted's committee recommended hiring Mr. Casella. So it is entirely possible for somebody like that to fool a lot of people. So
Ted, did your committee recommend him? No, just quickly. I don't want a speech. I just want yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. Back to Mr.
And I supported Casella. I was all in for Casella. And I was all wrong on Casella.
I think we all hoped for the best, wanted for the best there.
Back to Mr. Burnett. Mr. Burnett, what is the current salary for Mr. Johansson, the new city manager?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure what it is. It's around 130, 140, somewhere in that
I
range.
thought it was like 150 to 160.
It might be a little higher than that, but I mean, this is along the lines of you gotta pay what the market will bear.
All right, I'm glad you said that.
You gotta pay what the market will bear. I'm not happy with that, but when you're looking along those lines, part of our issue is in Port Orange is I think we did so many other things on the cheap for so long. Water meters, a great example. Not having a replacement program because we were able to get away with doing things on the cheap because we were such a great community for so long. Sometimes you have to pay for performance, you have to pay a premium to get premium performance.
I want to kind of set the tone for the three of you now in terms of public spending and you know, what the taxpayers take the burden on. I took a look at salaries at the municipal level, and I noticed around 1996, 97, when we were in the middle of that big thing with the mortgages, where you could get a second mortgage for nothing, basically. And everything, the housing boom was through the roof. Nobody in Volusia County at the municipal level made over $100,000 a year. And then it started creeping in where the city managers were near $100,000, and the city attorneys were near $100,000. Mr. Parker, when he retired, I believe made no more.
He was the fourth paid highest employee in the city.
No,
when he
that's not what I'm
retired.
asking. What I'm saying is, when Mr. Parker retired, I believe he was either the second or third lowest paid city manager in all of Volusia County. And we're talking Ponce Inlet, Pearson, Oak Hill, Edgewater, DeBerry, Lake Helen. Why do we need to, in 4 years' time, bring a salary from 110 to 140, 150 and up?
You can start with that.
I'm with you, please.
And in Ken's case, I think we got a hometown discount for a very long period of time. He was the fourth highest paid employee in the city, and he's the city manager. To think that there were three people that had salaries higher than him when he retired. I think that after having Ken leave, and then we failed with Mr. Casella, and then of course we had an interim manager, I think we had to take a very hard look at what we were paying. We had to pay a market premium to make sure that we recruited good people. There are a lot of things going on in the city and all the mess that we had that we were working through that didn't help as far as being able to recruit good candidates. So sometimes, unfortunately, you have to compensate by making sure you pay a good, fair market wage. And as you look at the NFL, I don't think those guys are worth $10 or $15 million a year, but what are you going to do, let the owner keep it? From an economic standpoint, they're worth what they are to their owners. So sometimes you have to pay what the market will bear to make sure that we get quality.
Okay, Lance Reed, do you feel that, as Mr. Burnett put it, you got a hometown discount on the cheap? Is that always the best thing? For example, Jim Chisholm in Daytona Beach, their city manager, he's hovering around $300,000 a year, twice as much. Jim Deneen, I calculated his over the last 4 or 5 years, and I believe he's a millionaire twice over. When does it stop for government where it becomes, they've got cars, they've got mileage, they've got, 3 or 4 weeks worth of vacation time? Where do you draw the line when people struggle to pay their light bill?
That's a good question. And so the response would be about Ken Parker is yes. There was a guy who committed himself to his city, and he did it at a damn cheap price. He wasn't about the money. He is not. If you know Ken Parker, you know a guy who just cared. And it was not necessarily all about his paycheck. He wanted his family to be in Port Orange, and he gave us a great deal for a lot of years. So then what happens is the economy starts to change, and the rise in the wages go up, and you got somebody at McDonald's going to make $15 for handing a hamburger out the window. Obviously now you got a city manager who's in control of a $130 million budget. You're looking at a different scale. So I firmly believe you got to, you do your exploration, you find out what the area is bringing, and again, things like Daytona and those you can't really compare. I don't think you compare because their council is a full pay position and their city managers. Again, there's a lot more different things in Daytona as far as the tourism goes versus Port Orange, which is a bedroom in a neighborhood community. So, but yeah, I think you gotta pay what the market will bear, and you're gonna pay for performance, and you're gonna have to pay for what you get.
Okay. Gentlemen, your responses are excellent. I just want to try to limit them a little bit more because we're running out of time. We have a few minutes left. Mr. Naftal, I throw out there for you the range of salaries, you know, with Mr. Burnett and Mr. Green feel that Ken Parker's hometown discount made a difference. But some people can still say, well, just because you're cheap doesn't mean they're any good, or that it's a bargain in the long run, you know, penny wise and pound foolish. Or I gave the other extreme of Chisholm and Deneen, and, you know, these are high-profile managers. Where do you see the salary structure, and how would you put limits on it if you're on the dais?
Anybody working in Volusia County, that's all we got. Anybody working in Volusia County who's pulling down $140,000, $160,000, $180,000 is doing very well, very well. So my take on Mr. Parker was he was paid very well. That's the bottom line. Now, in terms of these other salaries that we're chasing, like I said earlier, we're either going to get government under control or we're going to have a serious problem. We're not going to be able to afford government. Every person that I hear, we were on the Bernier show the other night, three of us, and the question was asked, how are we going to fund roads going forward? And I honestly don't know how we're going to fund roads going forward. But as I left, a judicial candidate was on, bemoaning the fact that there's no money for the judiciary. They're operating on a shoestring budget. The sheriff candidates tell us that their deputies, they're losing them all to Orange County. They're not getting paid enough. But here in Port Orange, we're losing our people, supposedly, to the sheriff's department. So we're in a vicious circle with local government here in Volusia County. And if we do not get it under control, like I said, I don't know how we afford it going forward.
Mr. Green, the roads, bridges, development, all these things are the buzzwords that, you know, people either they want it for their improved area or they don't want something that's coming into their community because it's going to create more traffic or whatever. Do you see yourself in a role of policymaker? Do you see yourself in a role of, how do you see yourself in that role on the dais with all the stuff we've talked about tonight?
Absolutely. I do see myself as a policymaker, and I also see myself as the leader of the vision. You know, and where we go with our new development and how do we plan for the traffic. A majority of our development right now is going to the west side of 95. We have new homes slated for the other side of 95, and that already is a strain. Our underpass is not wide enough, and nor are we going to get any more. So we've got to look at other resources as far as getting roads to the west side, and may it be the city partnering up with some type of a developer to get the Yorktown extension completed, and or working with higher governments to get maybe off-ramps at Williamson Exchange or some type of other feeder roads or connector roads to get us to the west side to help us move around our city. We really only have one real main focal problem in our traffic, and that's the underpass of 95. And it's not going to get any wider. So with that being said, we've got to
Can you get any help from DOT with that?
No. I'm pretty sure that the 95 exchange and the width that we have, they're not going to move. And they're out there expanding the highway right now, and it's not going to get any wider. So our problem now is going to get bigger. We need to think outside the box to get other arteries to the west side.
Mr. Green, sticking with you, if I jump in, it's just because I'm worried about having enough time. You used the word that I was trying to get to, and I thought it was excellent. What would be your vision right now moving into if you were sitting on the dais, what would encapsulate your vision that's an overall theme? Not necessarily all solutions, but is it roads, is it taxes, is it accountability, is it parks and recreation? What would be your vision?
Again, my first vision as a city leader is again making sure that my people are safe. I definitely want, my public safety is a big ticket for me. Our police department is depleted. Our public safety departments are depleted. Our fire and rescue, again, we can't keep employees because personally I don't believe that we're adequately paying our staff what it needs to and providing them the right training and the right tools to be able to do their job. First and foremost, safety comes first. And then from that, then I'll have the vision of community about the hometown feel. So I'm going to stick with safety first, and we'll go from there and we'll grow from there.
Ted Knopfler, You've heard some of the themes here. Your vision, going onto the dais, you have the reputation being tough talking, citizen watchdog, someone that truly cares about the community. What would be your vision in encapsulating that kind of point of view?
How about the vision that we deliver good government to our people? How about that for a vision? And that is probably my vision. I'm not in the vision business. Look at all the new roles we find for government. Government now is meant to be an economic, meant to create jobs. Since when did that get to be government's job? This vision business. This country belongs, this city belongs to the people. Let the people supply the vision, not me. I can barely run my own life. I don't have the ability to run other people's.
Mr. Burnett, I think it goes without saying that the people elect their candidate who has a vision that they can share with them, that they feel is good for them. Would you say that a vision, this is a ridiculous notion on the moderator's part, or would you say that you need to have a vision going in, sort of a thing of where you're going, forecast?
I think you have to have a good assessment of where you are before you know where you can go. We have, as a city, our citizens have a lot of wants and needs, and you can't have more than you're able to pay for. So once you have an assessment of what your citizens want, what they need, and then you have an assessment of what you're able to pay for, then you go out and strike the balancing act of what you're able to do and when. As the mayor of this city, you need a consensus builder, because the vote of the mayor is no more, no less. But he does run the meeting, he does give instruction, he does provide vision. So you need to be able to have a consensus builder, somebody who can work with the council. And I admit, there have been times I've gone into our council meeting and been, based on the things that I've seen and read and studied, been ready to vote one way, but in the matter of debate and fleshing things out, I've changed my mind. And I think that's perfectly okay. In the light of
You said earlier move forward still. But what consensus building would be your thing? Is a vision? Or is it a way to get to that vision?
I think it's a tool to get to the vision.
But what's the vision for your?
The vision, I think, Maslow says you have to have safety and security needs before you can self-actualize. So, yes, absolutely. Public safety, we've recently been named the 7th safest city in Florida. That's not by accident, but you can't rest on your laurels. We know that we have the we're in the lowest third tier of how we pay our police officers. They're leaving. We've had a lot of retirements. We're growing as a city, so there are more needs. So you got to be able to assess those things and figure out how to pay for them, and to work as a council to build a consensus on that vision for the future, so that the needs of the citizens are met.
Could you hand it to Mr. Knopfler, please? Ted, we're going to go into closings now. We're out of time. We'll come back in the fall if there's a runoff. In order to avoid a runoff, one of the three of you, I guess, has to win 50% plus one vote. And if that doesn't happen, then the top two vote getters square off in the general election. With that said, Ted Knopfler, tell us what you believe are your biggest strengths and weaknesses, or your opponents. This is your closing. You have 2 minutes. Whatever you want to say.
Yes, sir. I am a change agent candidate. I firmly believe we need to change the way we operate government in Port Orange. Openness, transparency. How about assigning real responsibility and then demanding accountability back from these people that we employ? Those are the areas I want to focus on. We have a pension debt that is going to collapse this city ultimately. And there's no plan to get it under control. None whatsoever. I want to make clear to the people listening here in the audience and that'll see it later, that I am about change. We talked a bit about the strong manager form of government we have right here. And to earlier candidates, you said, what is the role? The role of council can be whatever the charter defines that role to be. And I believe we need to move a little closer to strong mayor from where we are right now at strong manager. And a simple example would be, let's involve the elected reps in the hiring, the evaluation, meaning retention, and then ultimately the termination of our people. Now, some people think that's a radical idea. I don't know how to hire a police chief, I heard. Well, how exactly does a city manager learn to hire a police chief? And our current manager has never hired anyone in his life. He's worked in the military his whole life. So there's a lot of things we need to do, folks, and it's all within our grasp, every bit of it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Green, please, your closing.
Thank you. My opponent here says he can't run his household, yet he wants to run your city. I can run my house, I've run a business, I'm a natural born leader. I've been put in leadership roles since I was young. And providing direction is something I've done for a long, long time. I'm about positivity. Yeah, does change need to be made? Absolutely. But I'm about positivity. I do not want to go back and harp on what has happened. I had nothing to do with what has happened. What I am is the future. So with that being said, I want to provide my leadership, my skills, and my ability to run my household, to run your city. And so with that being said, I appreciate your support. My name is Lance Green. Thank you.
Don Burnett, you have 2 minutes to give your closing.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for hosting this tonight. I think any time you have an opportunity to address the electorate, your constituents, the voters, I think more access, more information for them is a good thing. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to that tonight. I'm the only one up here that actually has a record of service. And you talk about change. Boy, in the last 6 years, I've been through a lot of them here, and my hands have been on the steering wheel along with 4 other people. And I feel like in the last few years, where the council has finally got their second wind, and we work very well together as a council. We don't always agree, and very seldom, unless it's an easy item, you see 5-0 votes. 4-1-3-2 votes are an indication that we've talked about issues and we've fleshed them out. None of it is perfect. Sometimes hindsight being the wonderful teacher it is, you learn from those, and that's one of the things that I've been able to accept, is that in hindsight, not all my decisions have been great, but I've got, because of that experience, because of that mature judgment that comes along with experience, I think I have an awful lot to offer. As far as looking to the future, I think that it's very important to have a vision and be able to work with your council to explore that vision, and not be afraid to say, this, what we're trying now isn't working, we need to move in a different direction. That's okay. I have been fiscally conservative, and I think my record says so. If you take a look, most people are paying less now on their Port Orange taxes than they were before I came into office. I can't take all the credit for that. I think all of us in our own way have fought for different things. But if you have a safe, secure city with a vision to move forward, good things can happen. And I hope you're in your vote on August 30th. Appreciate it.
Do any of you gentlemen felt like you got shortchanged in terms of any kind of serious rebuttal? Or is everyone satisfied that we can call it a day on this debate?
I was referenced after I closed, so I'd like a couple of seconds to respond.
10 seconds.
I never said I wasn't a good administrator. I am a fantastic administrator. I have been self-employed and employed people for 35 of my 43-year history.
Thank you.
What I said
That's
was,
good.
I don't know how to run other people's
Okay.
lives, not run a government.
With that said,